Welcome into a brand new edition of the 06010 ESPN Communications podcast. I'm your host, Alex Feuz, and we have the one and only Holly Rowe, ESPN sideline reporter for the college football playoff national championship game this Monday, along many other responsibilities throughout the year. Holly, when you have this game on your calendar leading up to it, what do the days and weeks look like for you going into this big game?
Yeah, it's a combination of, a lot of prep and then a lot of kind of hectic pieces moving around. So, for example, today I'm in Columbus, Ohio. We were here yesterday, did interviews with about 10 people. We're trying to gather sound that we'll have to use on SportsCenter for the rest of this week. We did a couple of live shots. And then I'm really excited about today because Jack Sawyer is a player for Ohio State. His teammates are calling him the Buckeye after his 83-yard scoop and score to help win that game against Texas. Born here, just bleeds scarlet and gray. And his dad, Lyle, has a bar here in town, kind of a restaurant pub type situation. So we're going to go out and hang out with the Sawyer family at the pub tonight. And so, just kind of looking for fun little story ideas that the viewers might like. And you never know where these stories are. So you just kind of throw a bunch of things up in the air and hope something is really cool and fun that viewers can resonate with.
We'll get into your career later on the podcast, but I have to ask, when did you realize that fans of whatever game or sport you're broadcasting for, yes, the gameplay is important and the stats and all of that, but finding out who the people are, when did you realize that?
Oh, I think probably early on. I think that storytelling is the most important thing that we do at ESPN because you can talk about the scores, you can analyze the game, but if people don't care about the players who are playing, whether it's good or bad, I've seen hate of players drive story interest. I've seen love of players drive story interest. So I'll give you an example of that. Victor Wembanyama is this incredible young talent. Everybody's heard about him, heard about him, heard about him. Well, until we start peeling back the layers of who this young man is, he's showing up to games in costumes and outfits and showing up, pulling up to the park to play chess with random strangers. Then people really get intrigued with the who of him, right? So I think that we can really peel back layers of the performer and make people care about their performances more because they're interested in the person that they are.
Mm-hmm. This is a seasons of firsts, obviously the expanded college football playoff games on campus and SEC on ABC, and you've been on the sideline throughout this whole year. What kind of sticks out to you as you reflect on the season that we just had leading into this Monday?
Well, I think you hit on something really important. This is the first year that we had the big SEC game every single week. For many years, I want to say maybe even the last 20 years, 18, 20 years, that has always been on the CBS in the afternoon. And so this is the first year that I could always count on whatever the biggest game in college football was, because almost every week the biggest game in college football is in the SEC. I do think the Big Ten had a few big games, Ohio State, Oregon, obviously Ohio State, Michigan, but we owned the best games inside and out every single week. And to me, I've worked for 30 years at this gig. And for me, that was the biggest thing because, I can look on my schedule and I'm like, I know we're going to have Georgia, Texas. I know we're going to have Alabama, LSU. So it was just a really special year for us to have the biggest game every single week.
Notre Dame, Ohio State this Monday. What can fans expect?
It's so crazy because every game leading up to this in the playoffs with Ohio State, I've had Ohio State every single round. I'll start with their round against Tennessee. I knew how good Tennessee is. I knew how good their defensive front. So I was expecting this really close game. Thought it would be a low scoring game, hard to score, and it just wasn't. And I think maybe all of us have underestimated the way that Ohio State's offense has started to gel and click at the perfect moment. Their ability to run the ball allows them to really pass downfield. Their wide receivers have grown up. Jeremiah Smith, he's a true freshman, and he was telling me that early in the year, he was just trying to do his job. And now he understands the nuance of a route. So think about that difference. He understands what the defense and the defender is trying to do to him on a route. So he can have nuance to how he runs it, how he puts his foot in the ground. So now he has turned into this unstoppable weapon, although I did think the Longhorns did a good job with him. So I hate to say I think we're going to have another close game because it just hasn't played out that way per se. But I do think the Buckeyes look really, really good. Although yesterday, the one of the offensive linemen at Ohio State, Josh Fryer, had an interesting comment. He said, "I believe Notre Dame is the toughest college football team in America." So that tells me that opponents have noticed that maybe Notre Dame is not the most talented. Maybe they don't have the names that are the five stars up and down the roster. Maybe it's not exactly the same level of talent, but the toughness has won games for them. We saw that last week against Penn State. So I think it's interesting that the Buckeyes are taking note of how tough the Irish are.
You mentioned you've had Ohio State this whole time. How much of an advantage is that for you going into this?
It's huge because as the storylines are developing from week to week to week, you're there, you're on the ground, you know the storylines. So you know that in this moment, what a scoop and score might mean for Jack Sawyer because you understand, that he's the kid that's been on the sidelines, hyping everybody up, telling everybody that he loves them. He's kind of been the heart and soul. So when that moment happens in the game, you totally understand how that is going to resonate with the whole team, the whole fan base. So you can hype that moment up and make sure that that moment is saved and is precious.
You mentioned 30 years at this gig. When did you realize you were going to make it in this industry?
Oh my gosh, I don't think I have realized that. I think every day, I definitely am one of these people that I feel like I am only as good as my last report. I definitely think that the quality of your work is never set in stone. You have to fight for it every day to be good at your job. So I'm only as good as my last report. I will say this though, my last report was a pretty dang good one that I'm very proud of about Jack Sawyer and his commitment to Ohio State while his dad was napping. So today I am feeling good about myself because I did think my last report was great.
How do you keep that mindset of, where you don't lose track of where you came from to make it to this point and to always improve and get better every day?
Gosh, I don't know. I think it's just something about your internal character of, being a goal-driven person who wants to be good and understanding that, you never work the same game twice. I have never worked the same situation twice. And so, there's a great saying, I think it comes from Gandhi, that you can never step in the same river twice because the river is always moving. And I think about that a lot because sports are changing, rosters are changing, coaches are changing. Like I have to be good and dialed in and really researched every single day of my life because the game's never the same, the team's never the same. So I take that really to heart, but I also think it's fun. Like I love the research part. I love the prep part. I love the creative storytelling part. One of the things I was working on, so a fun storyline in our last game was that Jack Sawyer and Quinn Ewers were roommates when they were at Ohio State. And so, right after the game, Eli Manning tweets out this funny tweet that's a text from his dad, Archie Manning, the legend. And it said, Riley Leonard and Will Howard were also roommates. So I spring into action. So I was able to contact the Manning Passing Academy. Their great PR people were able to get me photos of Riley and Will Howard this week. Now I don't have any roommate in their room together, but I have them at the camp together. So you just never know what storylines are going to pop up, whether it's a visit to Jack Sawyer's dad's bar or getting pictures of the roommates. You just kind of spring into action. But I love that. I think my mind is creative and that's kind of how my brain works. So it works out great.
And also, you have to make up how you're going to handle all these other sports as well. And I heard that at times, if you have an assignment for a college football game, you also make time for another sport at that same college. When did you start doing that? And how did you realize you can kind of do double duty and double dip into just expanding your horizon into more information across different sports?
Yeah, I've always covered a lot of sports for ESPN. I think at one point a few years ago, before I got cancer, I was covering 8 different sports. So I think that's something that I'm really proud of. I don't know that there's many other people in sports that are that versatile. So I'm really proud of that I have that capability and that bandwidth and that knowledge, but also that curiosity. I truly love all these sports. Since I went through a really tough battle for 5 years with stage 4 metastatic cancer that nearly killed me, I realized I had to start cutting back. So I think I'm down to 4 or 5 sports right now, but I still think that's really good. I'm proud of that. So, for example, I'll work a college football game on a Saturday night till midnight, and then I'll either drive through the night somewhere to get to the right airport, or fly early the next morning and drive crazy hours to get to my WNBA playoff game. And I do that because I love the W. I want to support them, always uplift those women, be on the forefront of that. So, like, I sacrifice a lot to cover all these sports, but it's important to me and I love doing it.
You mentioned the cancer battle and you're a survivor. How has this personal journey impacted your outlook on life as you go through your day to day now?
It's impacted me in a really powerful way. And I think the weird way I can tell you is, while I was going through cancer, everything else fell to the side. Like, things that you're worried about on a daily basis, or things that you're typically stressed about, it just falls away because you're just trying to live. You're just worried about surviving and living that day that you have. And so I kind of felt like I was living better while I was dying because I only focused on what mattered. And I'm really trying to take that intentional approach now that I'm better. My scans are good, I'm doing well, trying to keep that same very intentional approach of what actually matters today, being very intentional about what is my purpose today, what matters to me, what is worth being stressed out about, what do you care about, and then letting out everything else fall away, because I think we spend a lot of times in our life, and I know those of us at ESPN, we all are overworked, overstretched, we are all grinding because we love our jobs. But I'm trying to encourage everyone of just finding your purpose every day, finding something that brings you joy every day, and pour that energy of angst and worry, pour that energy into that, of living with purpose and having that joy every day at your job, because these are fun jobs. We work at a fun place. So I want us to all be a little more joyful and purposeful of how we're spending our days.
You're an inspiration, and I really appreciate you being open and sharing this on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Holly, this is my favorite part of any interview I do. It's the Fast Five round. It's 5 quick questions, and you have as much time to answer. Are you ready?
Oh boy. Okay, here we go.
Anyone in your phone contacts you could choose from, who would you want to host a podcast with?
Ooh, Candace Parker.
Oh,
She and I get into a lot of really heated discussions and debates about players and sports and athletes. So I think we would be really funny together and fun together. Also, I would say Rebecca Lobo, because we are hilarious together. So somebody needs to make these happen.
best advice someone gave you at ESPN.
Best advice someone gave me at ESPN. Actually, he wasn't at ESPN, but Leslie Visser connected me with this old time, really classic, really well thought of Hall of Fame broadcaster named Marty Glickman. And he told me that fans should remember the great story that you told, and the wonderful thing that you shared during a broadcast. They don't need to remember you, that you should never get in the way of the broadcast. It's not about you. It's about the athlete. It's about the story. And I have lived my career by that advice.
I love it. 3 people you would love to have dinner with. They could still be with us or have passed on.
Oh, well, gosh, that's a
Come on.
hard one.
I know.
That's a hard one. Okay, well, this is weird, but Angela Lansbury. I was obsessed with Angela Lansbury. I never got to meet her before she passed away. I just love her beyond words. I saw every Broadway show she ever did. Muhammad Ali, I actually have got to meet him. I didn't get to have dinner with him, but Muhammad Ali might be the most fascinating sports character person that I've ever encountered. I'm obsessed with his story. So I would say Muhammad Ali. And then, oh, see, this is hard because I've had dinner with some of my heroes. Nadia Comaneci was one that I would have said, but I've actually had dinner with her and her husband, Bart Connor. So I can check that off my bucket list. I'll say Michael Jordan. I was obsessed with the Bulls. My son's name is Michaelan Jordan.
Wow.
I named him after Michael. So probably Michael Jordan. I probably should be picking like world leaders and people who've changed the world. But hey, I'm a sports girl, and like Billie Jean King is someone I would have said, but I've had dinner with. I've been with her a lot. So there's a lot that I should have said, but I've already had dinner with them.
Bonus one for a follow-up. What is your favorite Broadway play?
Favorite Broadway play, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh,
It's hilarious. It's fun. And I got to see it when they had the original cast on Broadway. I took my son. He was 8 years old, and we had a blast.
mine's The Music Man.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's underrated in my opinion. But if you weren't broadcasting, what would you be doing today?
I would be a mystery novelist. I'm obsessed with Agatha Christie. Early in my college football journey, every stop I would go, every school in the country, I would go to little old bookshops and find copies of Agatha Christie novels. And so I have the complete Agatha Christie set, every single book she's ever written. I have it. And one day when I retire, I am going to be a mystery novelist. So that's what I will be doing next in my new career.
One sport you haven't covered yet that you would love to.
One sport I haven't covered yet. Oh, probably men's World Cup soccer. I've covered women's World Cup soccer. I've covered every other sport in America. But I think the World Cup on that stage would be pretty spectacular. Or the Olympics. I never have gotten to do the Olympics, because ESPN, I've been with ESPN 30 years and we don't have the rights to the Olympics. That is obviously a bucket list for me. Is like to do track and field or swimming and diving or something at the Olympics would be a total bucket list.
Then the last one for you, Holly, obviously big game on Monday. What's one thing you're looking forward to most about this game?
I think one thing I'm looking forward to most is both of these teams, I feel like, are truly teams of destiny. This is a weird story, but I got to do Notre Dame's first game of the season. So before the season started, I went to South Bend for 3 days. And Marcus Freeman is amazing to me. And I just got to be around the facility and I sat in their team meetings. And he did this incredible team meeting with members of the special forces. And they were talking about how you perform as a team under stress. And these are men that have been in battle. And if something doesn't go right in their team, somebody dies or someone is injured. And kids in the room for Notre Dame football were raising their hand, talking about how hard it is to play with anxiety and stress. And I think back to that moment in August and how that team was coalescing and building together to now. It's just beautiful to see these young men grow together. And then being at Ohio State, the week before the playoffs started, it was negative around here. And getting to see these young people believe in themselves, believe in their coach, and tune out the negativity of the world. I think it's a really great lesson for all of us of what matters is us and the work that we're working towards and what type of people and team we want to be. And I get to see both of those stories play out for both of these teams and these young men. And then the last thing I'll say is I do think it is significant that we have an African-American coach. He's also Korean, but Marcus Freeman coaching the first to ever coach in a national championship game as a head coach, leading his team. I think that is significant in society, in college football history. And I know he doesn't want it to be about him, but I think the historical significance of that is massive. And I'm really proud of him. He is a wonderful person, father. I've gotten to be around he and his family. I went to his son's high school football game with him in August when I was there for a few days. This is a really tremendous family. He's a tremendous person. And I want us to all celebrate the significance of that and who he is.
Holly, this has been so much fun. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. This is a crazy stretch for you. You have a very busy schedule, so appreciate the time going into this big game on Monday. And again, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry my fast answers aren't faster. I just have too many things in my head. I have too many people I want to have dinner with.
It was perfect. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.